Hello, and welcome back to Becoming Ageless podcast, where we have conversations about whole health for naturally increasing health span and decreasing biological age. I'm your host, Robynn Fredericks, holistic health practitioner, and I believe in living agelessly. So we're just going to jump right into today's show. I have so enjoyed getting to know my guest, Judy Arazoza. She describes herself as the average lady next door who excels at being herself. I love that. It's an amazing outlook. She began her career as a health as a respiratory therapist and a respiratory care adjunct instructor in New York. And now with multiple certifications under her belt, she focuses on preventative health through modalities such as mindfulness, resistance training, and sustainable nutrition. She's the owner of Grateful Fitness and the host of Air Hug Community Podcast, where she offers countless tips for the midlife journey. Judy, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me today.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I am thrilled to have you here. And as you already know, I have to ask you the all-important question. What are you doing in your life today to live agelessly?
Oh my gosh. It probably starts when I wake up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to go through a whole day, but I really do walk the walk and talk the talk. I obviously eat well. I train well. I make it a point to be safe in everything that I do, safe in what I put in my mouth, safe in how I move my body, and safe in the thoughts that I allow my brain to believe.
I like that. I know. And you living or walking the walk, when we first started talking, I tell all of my viewers, I always vet my guests. And I go through a social media deep dive, and everything that you talked about, I listened to your podcast. You guys, you've got to go on and listen to her podcast. It's just absolutely beautiful. And she gives such amazing tips. And this woman is just as joyful as she seems online. And she's just amazing. You really do walk it. And I like that. I like that about you.
Well, I have to say thank you. I have to say, I want your viewers to know that I'm human and I'm not 100% like Pollyanna happy.
Of course.
I have all the emotions, but I don't dwell on the negative.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what we kind of have to do, especially in today's time. And no, nobody's perfect. None of us are. I've always thought if you find somebody who seems perfect, run away from them as fast as you can. But that's the big thing. It's, we either respond or we react to stress and to emotions. And we have a choice with how we handle things. And I love the message that you put out there to people, and we're going to dig into that. We're going to really dig in. So you are actually a bodybuilder.
That's correct. I'm a retired professional bodybuilder.
Retired, okay.
But I don't know how people define bodybuilding, because even when I was first in bodybuilding, I didn't know I was a bodybuilder. I was like, oh no, I'm a figure competitor. But if in the definition now that I encompass, there I go talking with my hands, which we talked about a minute ago. It's the Italian in me. If you are doing something to prevent the breakdown of your body, right? If you're doing something to maintain your strength, then you could be considered a bodybuilder.
Right.
So, I've taken it to a little bit more extreme than that and made it my life's goal to teach people how to do it safely.
Yeah.
And without injury. But yeah.
Okay. I like that. I like it. We're going to dig more into the fitness stuff in just a minute, but I want to backtrack just a little bit. You first started in the health arena as a respiratory therapist. I know, the whole transition of kids and them growing up and all that good kind of stuff. What made you decide to go the way of getting, multiple certifications in health and fitness, nutrition, as opposed to just staying in the respiratory community?
Okay, well, I liked respiratory care. here's a big admission. The people who are in respiratory care with me are going to laugh. I hate sputum. I
can't
love,
blame you for that one.
no, I loved helping people,
Right.
but, and I just thought to myself, I also wanted to interrupt, illness. I'm not saying that I can prevent all illness, but I wanted to help people be more prophylactic versus reactive.
Right.
And when you're working in the hospital setting, I'm not saying it's too late. It's never too late. And I liked doing that. But this is something I wake up and I'm like, I get to go to work today.
Yeah.
And I get
passion is huge. We have to have that passion.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. So what all certifications do you have?
Okay, well, beyond that whole respiratory care business, I started out as a personal trainer, and then I got some certifications in things like pre and postnatal care and midlife care and working with the TRX. Most recently, I became certified as a pain-free performance specialist. So because of first, we want to do no harm.
Right.
And I feel like if everyone's always just like trainers just tell you to do 4 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10. And oh yeah, and don't put your knees over your toes. There's so much more to that. Like we had 16 hours of instruction on a safe warm up in the certification. And then the next, and actually that was a few months ago, the next certification, which was this past weekend, was actually programming. Let me say that again, because I got tongue tied. Programming for safety. So with certain regard to things like, do you want to return to the gym after not being there for a while? Or are you interested in fat loss? Because those are not the same thing. Are you a lifer client? Are you someone who wants to bodybuild in the sense that you want to build size, or do you want to build strength? Or are you training for an endurance sport? And so this last certification was just hours and hours and hours on programming for that. And I do have to give a quick shout out to Dr. John Russin and his company, because they are amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like an amazing course. It really does, because it's, we still hear, and it makes me cringe, because I started out back in the 90s as a personal trainer. And while, I've kind of moved away from that, I still dabble here and there with my clients, but, I still hear trainers saying, if it's not hurting you, it's not working, and no pain, no gain. And I just, like I said, I cringe when I hear that. And it's like, maybe pain in the disciplinary area, but that should be the only pain you're feeling,
Yeah, that's just unfortunate that still exists.
Yeah.
And part of it, I don't want to get into it, but it's a splintered industry. There's no across the board certification, and most of the certifications are for-profit companies, which can be okay, but it can also be, where people are ruled by greed. So you have to be very picky and selective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we're talking a lot to, midlifers. And one of the questions I hear people talking about a lot is, do I really have to actually exercise? I mean, I walk around the house, I take my dogs for a walk. I mean, do I have to do an actual dedicated timed exercise? Can I do 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there? What do you think?
Well, I think it depends on what your goals are. Like, how well do you want to live? I think it's wonderful that people are constantly active throughout the day. But I know also there are so many more benefits to exercise other than, having strong muscles and having strong bones, that you're missing out if you're missing the boat on that.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's, we know strong bones. And one of the biggest problems with women over 50, especially after menopause, is osteoporosis. So how does exercise help with that?
Well, any weight bearing exercise, and listen, don't get me wrong, swimming is great, but it's not a weight bearing exercise. So if swimming is your main thing, do it. But you do have to have weight bearing exercise. Weight bearing exercise helps you lay down new bone.
Right.
And so you have to keep those bones strong, because it is a case of use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Think about someone, if you've ever broken an arm or a leg and that limb has been immobilized for 6 weeks, it comes out so weak. And even you can actually see the reduction in size of the muscles that have atrophied, but that's also happened to you're trying to grow new bone by keeping it, immobile, but in general, that whole limb is weak,
Yeah.
and that's what happens to us. And especially, as if I can go on a quick soapbox, after the age of 30, we don't make something called growth hormone very well. And we need growth hormone to actually maintain muscle. And so while you may not notice between age maybe 30 and 40, you will definitely notice between age 30 and 60, if you haven't continued to build up your body to maintain the bone and muscle that you have, then you're actually losing it.
Yeah.
And that's where, fall on the ice, break a bone, or, just like get your foot caught on a curb. And the next thing you know, you've broken your tibia and fibia, No.
Yeah. Not fun.
Mm-mm.
Not fun. Yeah, I'm very lucky in the standpoint that, I've never experienced a broken bone personally. But my dad was a basketball player all through college. He played in Navy, so he was constantly jumping, and unfortunately he just passed away this last year, but all the way up through 91. I mean, he never broke a bone, never. And he has, he's an outdoorsy guy, does work on the house. He's fallen off ladders and fallen down the hill and,
Oh my gosh.
and never broke a bone. And, when I started getting into the health segment and looking at bones, and as we were moving into menopause and everything, I'm like, there's a lesson there. And so I started making sure that whether it's jumping jacks or whatever, along with those weight bearing exercises, I'm jumping. It's like, that's engaging my entire core, my legs, my hips, my everything. I mean, it engages everything if you let it. And
I'm going to applaud you on that, because I think a lot of midlife women are afraid to jump. When I get them in the gym, I'm like, let me show you how to jump so you don't hurt your knees or your hips. And it can do so much for you. There's a whole neuromuscular connection. So you are spot on, baby.
Yeah, thank you. Kudos to my dad. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dad.
Going back, looking at, the safety protocols and things, and I see I'm on social media, I'm watching what other people are doing. And you mentioned the knees beyond the toes. And is that still a thing? Do we need to be worried about that? Or is that no longer the case? Has science changed and we now say, oh, no, you can go beyond?
Well, I think that's just like, it's kind of myopic to look only at your knees and not look at the whole picture. Let's talk about a squat, for instance. How is this person squatting? What is the range of motion of their ankle? Can they actually bring their shins forward, or maybe they can't, and is that causing them to do funny things like bend way over, in a squat, for instance? So I think you actually have to look at them as a whole. And one thing that as a trainer is to not just look at them from the front, but to get a 360 view and walk around and look at them from all different angles, and then, I will make an assessment and then comment on that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Very nice. So now can we just do, as we're entering our midlife, can we just do the same workout that we did back in our 20s? Because you have a story about that, don't you? Of your own journey?
Well, it doesn't work. Because first of all, we're not the same person that we were when we were in our 20s. So if the one thing I do like to say is, if we always do what we always did, we are not going to get what we always got, because we are not the same woman. We're maybe what we were when we were 30 plus X more years. So our hormones are not the same.
Right.
Again, I mentioned, we don't make things the way we used to. We have a whole different a whole different set of female hormones that are and they don't work by themselves. They interact with each other. They interact with things like insulin and cortisol. And so without getting into it too much, we can't do what we did then. When you were, maybe when I was 25 to 27, I can actually remember, I'll just eat a little bit less and I'll just go for a run for a few weeks and be fine. But it doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't remember my story, but or how I explained it to you.
Yeah. No, it's actually, I found it in your website. You were talking about how you were getting back into the routine and you were going running, but you were actually gaining more weight.
I did. When I half marathon trained, I gained weight.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy. That's cardio, baby. How did that happen?
Well, here's my theory. I do think when let's say go out for a 2-hour run, because there would be some 2-hour training runs, you come back thinking, I can only speak for myself. However, I watched my daughter marathon train too. And she told me the same thing. I remember one of my daughters saying to me, this training is making my ass big. And so in truth, we have a disconnect between appetite and calorie burn. And you think like when you're just doing cardio, while you're working out, you're burning calories.
Right.
Pretty much when you're done, you're done. Versus if you're doing a weight bearing resistance training, strength or hypertrophy, you're building for strength or size. Let me just say it that way in simple terms. You're doing something. You're actually burning calories during that workout, but you have created so much micro trauma in your muscles and even in your bone a little bit that your body goes into overdrive to try and repair that.
Right.
And so you are actually burning more calories at rest. And it depends on what research you are going to look at, but you can be burning calories at rest after a workout for 12 to 24 hours afterwards. And that does not happen with cardio.
Right.
So, but the appetite does. It's so funny because I would always think like the attitude was like, well, I deserve to eat this because I just ran for 2 hours,
Right.
But
right.
It's disproportionate.
Yeah. And especially with runners, I mean, I think, the philosophy is you need more carbs, carb loading, got to get those carbs in. Simpler, the better. It can give me energy for my run.
Yeah. And that's a great thing. Again, if you're out there for a long time and if you're in a training for an endurance event, you actually have to learn how to eat carbs, like even during your workout, before and during, and how to fuel up after. But what people don't understand, it's all relative to you.
Right.
There could be some guy or some woman who's, maybe an elite runner. Like we're not going to fuel ourselves like they are because we're not them. And that's where people get the misconceptions.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting. What about as far as, and women say this all of the time, and I think you know where I'm going to go with this. If I go to the gym and I start lifting out with weights, am I going to get big muscles and look like a man?
And
I don't mean to laugh, you guys. I'm sorry if that is your concern, but it is something that needs to be addressed.
Right. In all seriousness, it's a very real concern. And I'm not going to laugh at that actually, because I want people to know it's really, really hard for a woman to build muscle. And there are so many women who come to me and say, but I build muscle really, really easily. And here's the thing most of the time, let's say you do a nice, wonderful weight workout. You've done it with a trainer and you think like, I'm going to go out tonight. I'm so excited. And you go to pull on those skinny jeans and darn it, if they are tight. Well, yeah, they are tight because your muscles right now are full of water because they're swollen because you just work them so hard. That's a temporary bulk. It's not going to last forever. And believe it or not, the more water you drink, the more it's going to actually help you. But it's that pump. It's that whole pump that Arnold talks about, but
Right.
it doesn't last.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that most of us, when we start this journey, have more fat over our muscles than what we want. And if you start having this little like swollen muscle that's temporary, it's also going to push that fat out and you're going to feel like you're bigger, but you just have to trust the process and know that over time, with a well-programmed workout, you are not going to get bulky. We physically don't have the right hormones to get big. And while we're not making a lot of growth hormone, we don't make a lot of testosterone. And so we physically can't get big, which is why women bodybuilders, and by the way, I've been natural my whole life. I have never taken a banned substance, but that is why, like in untested competitions, like the Olympia that everyone sees, those people are working very, very hard. I don't want to discount how hard they work, but they're also taking substances that help them grow muscle.
Right.
So, and that is not without risk. There have been people who have died. Some people will try to time insulin for energy uptake, and there have been people who have actually died from that. And so I just want people to know, like, it's not, I don't believe it's a good idea. I don't want to be judgmental of anyone who's into that. And if you are, I hope you're under their care of a doctor. But for the average woman like you and I, who is just trying to be healthy and fit, it's really nearly impossible to put on too much muscle. I mean, I really tried.
So what breakdown do you think a woman in midlife, maybe they're in menopause, they're post-menopause, what kind of like workout should they be doing? Cardio versus weightlifting, or any other combination? How much cardio, how much weight training?
So of course, to begin with, you have to know your own body and what you can do. But I highly recommend, and know this from experience, it's not a one or the other camp. You know, you can think of it like a pyramid, and at the bottom of the pyramid is probably good nutrition, but the next thing up is going to be resistance training. All right. And the next thing up is going to be cardio. And then at the top, but not to be neglected ever, is mobility. You know, and you can kind of put cardio and mobility. I don't know where I would put them in the pyramid. And again, I think it depends on the individual, but I would definitely put at the heavier part of the pyramid, you need to actually put that strength training. And you can strength train for strength, or you can strength train for size, and you can actually resistance train for fat loss. And a good trainer will know how to program that, not just in general, but once they get to know you and your individual responses, they can help you with that.
Right. I like that. Too many times I've seen people, go into the gym and just try to go it alone. And I see so many posture mistakes. And, then they wonder, after doing it for a month, I've not seen any difference at all. I mean, these people really, all of us, the first time you go into the gym, the first few times until you really get it down, I think that you really need to be with a trainer, and then even possibly long term. But until you really, really, really know what you're doing there, I really encourage people to get with a trainer. Because I mean, if you are doing it wrong, it's A, waste of time, and B, you're risking injury.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's really a good point. And the thing is, they're putting in the time, and it's like, gosh, if you're putting in the time, you want to get out what you put in, and you're going there, and God bless you for going there, but let's make it worth it for you, and do your homework, and find someone that you resonate with.
Right. What should somebody look for in a trainer?
I would say, depending on where you are in life and what your circumstances is, training has gotten to the point where people really do specialize. Like, I will only train midlife women. That's it. I don't do men. I don't do adolescents. I don't do guy bodybuilders. What I know is midlife women. And I tell women this because I've lived through my own mistakes. And I have also still use a trainer. And I want people to know that nobody knows everything,
Mm-hmm.
but find someone who's experienced in your stage of life,
Right.
and preferably it's someone who's lived through it, because they're going to have the empathy. I say to people a lot of times, are you going to go to a 27-year-old guy if you're a 55-year-old woman and think that he has any understanding of what it's like to wake up with night sweats?
Mm-hmm.
And, for example,
Unless he has helped his mama go through menopause and has helped her conquer everything, then yeah, he has no idea what you're going
yeah. And does
through.
he even understand pelvic floor embarrassment?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we pee when we jump rope. Like, okay, we can work on that and we can train not to do that. But do you really want to tell some kid that? I don't.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. You've got some beyond personal training and fitness. I love some of our conversations that we've had on mindfulness, and you've talked a lot about choosing your story. Can you kind of expound on that a little bit?
Yeah. And actually, choose your story, change your life. I've actually just been reading a book on that. Kendra Hall. I hope I got that right. But we all have beliefs in our head. We all have stories that we choose to believe. And what we tell our brain, which is very literal, our brain doesn't get sarcasm. Our brain is what you feed it is what it believes.
Right.
And so I think we have to be very careful with the story that we choose to identify with about ourselves. And especially it comes out when I hear people say, I'm such a loser, or I'm such an idiot. We have to really avoid that, because our brain does not know the difference.
Right.
And there are people who do that because they think it's funny, but deep down they do know they believe it. And I think we can change our story that anytime we want.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can think it, we can live it.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's a good place for affirmations to come in. Do you have a favorite that you use?
My favorite gym affirmation during a really hard workout, and this comes into my head, and it has for years, is that I am strong, I'm disciplined, and I'm healthy.
Yeah.
And I will say that during a hard lift, but right now I wake up every morning and I say, I love myself. And that's hard.
It is hard. It
to
is
really
hard.
believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have found that until you can really love yourself, nobody else can either.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have to love ourselves with gray hair. We have to love ourselves with baggy eyes. If we wake up and we're like, where did those black circles come from? We have to love ourselves with cellulite. And I had a personal battle with cellulite. At one point in my life, I thought that really defined my fitness.
Uh-huh.
And I, of course, had to do a lot of reading on it, because it's just how I am. And I came to learn that it's genetic.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be very, very lean and still have cellulite. I know when I'm in show shape lean, I don't have cellulite, but the rest of the time there's a little bit of cellulite. And I'm like, you know what? I actually have to say to myself, I love my cellulite. My cellulite are covering some very strong legs that can take me wherever I want to go.
Yeah, I like that. But now, is there anything we can do for cellulite? Can we rub it away, massage it away, work it away? Can we do anything natural for that?
I have not looked into that, because I've decided that it just doesn't matter. I'm all good about moisturizing and whatever, but I don't know that there's any magic lotion or potion or thing. I don't even know what, modality that can get rid of it long term. I mean, it's tight collagen.
Yeah.
And some of us genetically are more predisposed to it. When we are leaner, it's going to be less obvious, which is fine. But there's for me, I have to be unhealthy lean to have no cellulite. And I know the difference between healthy lean and unhealthy lean. by the way, the people that you see on stage at things like the Olympia and fitness, if you've ever watched a bodybuilding competition,
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider those healthy bodies.
No.
And they're one day bodies. So when people come to me and say
1 hour bodies.
yeah, in some cases, yeah, right. The timing it can be down to the hour.
Mm-hmm.
When people will come to me and say that I want you to train me so I look like I'm going to do can win a bodybuilding show. And I'm like, well, how about we train you so that you look like you're about 3 or 4 months out? Because what people don't know is it takes years to get to that point.
Yeah.
But if someone, a very fit person, an advanced person can live at maybe 4 months, 3 months out, and they're still leaner than like 98% of the population, if that's what they're asking for.
Yeah.
But I think they don't know what they're asking for,
What is a healthy body fat for a woman in her 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s?
Are you looking for a number?
Yeah, like a percentage, like not a single number, but like a range, like, remember it used to be like 18 to 26. Is it still in that range somewhere, or?
Well, I might be a little bit different than the rest of the training world because I don't measure percent body fat.
That's okay. I like that.
Yeah, I will go by circumferences and,
Mhm.
but I can't tell you that a 27-inch waist is perfect for everyone because it depends on someone's frame.
Right.
So I don't have a number for that.
Okay.
I know a fit person when I see them, and I know
Right.
someone who's what I will call either overtrained or emaciated, or, maybe someone who has signs of, I don't even know if there's a term for it, but there's what's that over-exercise term when people exercise too much?
Like they overtrain, or?
They're addicted to exercise, like an
Okay.
anorexic is addicted
Oh,
to not eating.
right.
There's a term for that and I can't remember it. I'll know that when I see it. And I see the behaviors too of some people. And I'm like, for instance, it's like, you have to have a recovery. You have to have recovery time.
Yeah.
Because you go into a gym and you cause trauma to your muscles, no matter what it is you're doing, whether it's
Right.
yoga, this or that. And you need to have, I'm not saying don't lay in bed for a full day, but I am saying that not every day can be balls to the wall.
Right.
But every day should also have movement. So it's hard for people to, again, if we have that attitude where things are either A or B, black or white, we're going to miss the point. It's all somewhere on a spectrum.
Right. Right. We live in a rainbow world.
Yes.
I truly believe that. Our
Yeah.
bodies are constantly, they're either building or they're detoxifying. And, my whole belief, theology, everything is about us getting to know our bodies and understanding our bodies and where is our body today. And we have to learn to work in partnership with our body, especially if we want to increase health span. Like you just said, if we're working against our body and pushing and pushing and pushing, and you will get in shape today. And our bodies are just like, I was just exposed to a virus. I really just need to like lay low today and recover and eat and rest. You're like, no, guess what? You're going to get sick.
Yeah.
You've got to learn to listen to your body.
It's a big picture, and it's in some ways it's a big puzzle and we have to listen for the clues. You're absolutely right.
Mhm.
Maybe you only slept 3 hours. Well, then don't come to work out. Maybe that's a day where you're going to leisure walk.
Yeah. Okay.
And just because you don't want to get overtired either, because then you probably won't sleep again the next night.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. I know one of your other big things is sleeping, that we need to learn how to get our sleep and make sure that is a priority.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge, especially with the research that's coming out now about brain health, which is, to me, is fascinating. But one of the things is, if we go years and years and years with 6 or less hours of sleep, we are more likely to develop the plaques that are associated with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
sleep,
frightening.
it is frightening. That, and as you know, I know that you know this, what you put in your body, is also has a lot to do with our future brain health.
Yeah.
And there's one other thing. Sleep, what we eat, but also what we believe. If we believe that we're doomed to be basically useless and old and in a vegetative state, we're more likely to arrive there. Again, it's choosing our story. But
Right.
there's actually, I wish I could cite the research, but there's actually been research done on that.
Oh yeah. It's perception is bigger than reality. There's so much research being done on that right now. And it's really the perception of we have perceived sleep, perceived stress. I mean, we could listen to the news and, there's all of this talk now about other countries going on with, all the turbulence, and it might affect our gas prices, but it doesn't really affect us in our day-to-day life right now. But we can get so obsessed and scared and nervous about that it becomes a major stress in our life, and it starts playing a role in your body, and your body goes straight into that fight or flight. And perception really is like the guide to where our bodies are going to go. So like you said, choose your story.
Yeah, that is so well explained.
Yeah.
Really. Thank you. Thank you for, I love that.
Yeah, that's a big study of mine. I love that. It really, perception they're finding is really one of the big rulers for epigenetics. So fascinating. I encourage everybody just, start researching it. You can look this stuff up, or, get in touch with one of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You are also, you talk about sustainable nutrition, and I've heard you say, eat your damn vegetables.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look on my Instagram says, I'm a big advocate of strength training and vegetables, but I think vegetables, first of all, they can be so delicious. If you want a little hint, low and slow.
Everything is low and slow.
Low and slow. Roast them low and slow, and they caramelize. Oh my gosh, they're so delicious. Yes. But, I think a part of it is making them palatable, because I think and we all kind of grew up with like boiled green beans, and no wonder we fed them to the dog. I mean, right? But those days are gone. We have learned how to really make vegetables delicious.
Yeah.
And I mean, I look forward to my vegetables, it's so funny. But vegetables, honestly, if you can eat them on half your plate, at least 2 meals a day, you're doing your body good, because there's so many, as they're just filled with, and I'm not talking about like processed, like veggie chips and,
right,
crackers made from cauliflower or whatever. Just eat cauliflower or eat whatever vegetables you like, and experiment. But, low heat and olive oil and a little bit of salt can make any vegetable taste good.
Yeah.
That's
very cool. I love that you talk a lot about sustainable nutrition. It's such a priority in all of our lives. We have to start thinking that way.
Yeah. And I will tell people, you need to find a way that is beneficial to your future health, but B, that you can live with the rest of your life. Can you eat this way the rest of your life?
Yeah.
And so, no, you're not going to boil those green beans because you're going to keep throwing them out. Right. Yeah. But if you can find a way to make a delicious salad dressing, like stop with the bottled stuff, get some really good, get the best quality olive oil you can afford, and experiment with flavors, and just keep it fresh. Don't keep it simple too. Good food is simple. We don't have to be gourmet cooks.
Right. I'm certainly not a gourmet cook, and I am the picky foodie. It's like, I am so picky about what goes on my plate, what goes in my body. I usually end up having everybody come to my house for dinner because, I'm safer that way. And I can always see people's face like, oh yeah, we're going to Robynn's for dinner. What are we going to have? And they're a little bit nervous at first, but then it's like, oh my gosh. And we had somebody here the other night, and they were like, can we just move in? Can we just live here?
There you go. Right. You could, that could be your next business. You could be like, you could provide food. Right.
Yeah. We like to joke that, our sandwiches, when we do sandwiches, they are more of, a veggie kind of sandwich. And I load it up, instead of mayonnaise, I put basil pesto and all organic natural vegan, actually, pesto. And it's amazing because everything will start just dripping. And so we just came up with a saying, if it's not messing up your hands, if it's not dripping down your hands, it's not good. So we do like mushroom sandwiches, or we call them mushroom burgers. We use it like a gluten-free bun kind of thing, and all the mess that you can just even
with basil,
imagine.
yum.
Lots of basil. I love my basil and my garlic. What is your favorite food? Do you have a favorite veggie?
I don't have a favorite veggie. I love what's in season, which I have a question. So in New York, we have a very short season of something that is wild. It cannot be cultivated, and it makes the best pesto ever. Ramps. Do you get ramps in California?
I've only been here for 2 years, so I don't know. I know there
So,
are ramps in North Carolina, but I don't know.
oh my God, ramps are amazing. And when they're in season, there's a couple of good restaurants. Believe it or not, we actually have a Michelin star chef in our city who came from Napa, California, by the way. I think I told you about him. But oh my gosh, during ramp season, I have to go there every week because I'm like, what is he going to make with ramps? But I make a really good ramp pesto. And can I tell you, my little granddaughter, who was 22 months, couldn't get enough of it.
Oh my gosh.
I was staying with her, and we went to the market in Brooklyn, New York. And I shouldn't say where they live, but we came home with a bunch of ramps and we made pesto together, and she loved it.
Oh my gosh. You're going to have to pass that recipe along. I'll put it in the show notes.
You know what? You can take any recipe that you have for pesto and just do a combination of ramps. If you want to do ramps and basil, or ramps, basil and spinach, or whatever your favorite earthy leaf is. With ramps are kind of oniony, but kind of not, kind of garlicky, but oh my gosh, so good.
Nice. Very
So good. But a favorite food to me is anything fresh and in season.
Right. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm with you on
You
that.
know,
Very cool.
I don't do sardines. I don't care where they came from. I tried.
I have tried. Oh my gosh. I've tried.
They're so good for you, but I can't eat them. I can't do it.
No, I know. We were even in France, and my husband and I were laughing because, the whole sardine thing, and they are so good for you. And if you guys can eat sardines, you are so ahead of the curve. But I was just like, maybe here in France, they do them differently. Maybe because they're in every single restaurant, and I saw them on all of the plates. I'm like, maybe you're doing it differently. So let me try it your way. And I couldn't finish my plate. I was just like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like that. Cilantro is a very polarizing food. Have you noticed that people are, and my husband is like, do not bring cilantro in this house. And I'm like, oh, so if I have to order it out, I'm like, oh, but it can be so good. But that's how it's sardines. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's plenty of other good foods in the world.
There are. All right. Well, you have, I had told you before, it's something we do on every show is have 3 action tips that our experts are going to help you guys, our viewers, out with. And these action tips are things that you can get started today. So let's dig into what you've got there.
So I think we've actually touched on all 3 of these during the day, but my number 1 action step for people is to get. Everyone can do this. You don't need anything special. All you need are your own 2 feet for 10 minutes. And this is not your exercise. Get 10 minutes of uninterrupted, non-exercise movement every day. I don't care if you're setting a timer for 10 minutes and walking around the house and picking up laundry or decluttering. It'll take me 10 minutes to declutter my house, I'll tell you. Literally. Or, you're going to go to the mailbox and maybe walk a couple houses down and back, 10 minutes. Number 2 is to pause every day. And yes, I'm going to say, write this down. And again, you don't need anything special. Everyone has pen and paper or a journal at their disposal. Write down one thing you're grateful for.
Yeah.
Once a day. That's all. And if you want to sit there longer, you can, but you don't have to. You can be very introspective about it, but make it a mini habit. And maybe at the beginning, you're just grateful for that great cup of coffee that you had. There's nothing wrong with that. And then as the years go on, you will find it'll come to you naturally. In fact, it will not feel natural if you don't do it. And
Yeah.
number 3, which is the hardest, and I'm going to tell you a little story because I think this is a very good thing. It'll put it in perspective. First of all, this is so important, and we've already talked about it, is to look in the mirror every day and say to yourself, I love you. So I was talking with a client about mini habits, and I said to her, she's got the gratitude thing down. I said, all right, can you, on a scale of 10, what are the chances that you can do the 10 minutes? I said, this is not your workout. If you're doing cardio that day, you still do it. If you're doing strength training that day, you still do it. 10 minutes of uninterrupted movement. Oh, 10 out of 10, I can do that. Great. I go, now, what are the chances every day that you can look in the mirror and say, I love you? And she said, well, it'll be a lot easier to do that 10-minute walk.
Oh,
And I said, well, there you go. Now we know what we need to work on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that's so hard?
Do you want to know my thoughts on that?
I do.
Seriously? Because I do have a theory on this. I think the marketing industry is amazing, and they have the whole goal of the marketing industry is to find out our pain points and to tell us, you suck at this, but don't worry, we can make you better at that. If only you will buy our product. If only you will join Weight Watchers. If only you will become keto and drink bulletproof coffee or what. I'm not dissing any of those things. They're just examples. If only you will, buy the Gucci shoes, your life will be better. If only you will lose 20 pounds, your life will be better. If only. And we are constantly fed this bullshit story that we suck.
Right.
And that we suck unless we buy their product.
Right. Do you think we as women tend to do that to each other as well?
Well, I hope that we don't, but I think that the reality is we do. And there's a big movement now. In fact, one of the guests that was on my show talked a lot about women building each other up and loving herself. And it took for her, she had started this journey, and it was very interesting because I knew her long before that. In fact, I had trained her for a bodybuilding show. And she did everything that it took to get there. And then we talked a few years later, and she had done a lot of mindset work. And then she got cancer. And then she said to me, it's one thing to talk about this, but to have to wake up every single day and look in the mirror, with scars from surgery and a port in and being sick from chemo and having no hair. She goes, try that, to wake up every day and look in the mirror and say you love yourself. And then notice who calls you, and notice who, is really by your side and who is building you up and who isn't. And as a women, we do need to build each other up and help each other. We really do, because you know what? We're all on the same team, and the team is the human race.
Yeah. I so agree with that. That's powerful, and something I think we all need to really take note of when we're, going out and about in our actions for the day. When I'm out and about, when I go to Whole Foods or, any of the other places that we go to, I try to seek out another woman, especially if she looks like she's having a bad day, and just pay her a compliment. And it doesn't have to be like, this big grand thing. It's just like, wow, you've got the most beautiful eyes. And then you walk away, before they can sit there and try to think of something to say to you, because that's what we feel we're supposed to do. Or we either say, oh, thank you, but no, I'm tired today. We always try to come back with something because for some stupid reason, we think we need to do that.
Yeah, so it's hard for us to take compliments.
It is. Oh my gosh. So you know what? Drop that compliment and walk away before they have a chance. And then they feed on it. They'll just sit there and feed on it. I've had people cry. I've had a woman, I was at a gas station and I did that, and I walked away from her, and she just stood there in silence. I can kind of see her out of the corner of my eye, and she just stood there, kind of dumbfounded. And then she walked over to me with tears coming down her eyes and just hugged me. And that was it. And of course, I started crying too, but you never know what another person's going through. So, all right. I think Judy kind of got frozen there. It started raining here. So we'll see if she comes back to us. But in the meantime, you guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. And Judy, thank you for being part of the conversation. You've given so many great steps here. And I hope our listeners can find gold in one or all of the steps. And if you want to learn more about Judy, you can visit her website at gratefulnessny.com. Her podcast, which I definitely recommend, is called Air Hug Community, which is available on all podcast platforms. And you can also catch up with her on Instagram and Pinterest at Judy Arazoza, and that's JudyArazoza. And if you want to catch up with me, you can find me all over social media at Robynn Lynn, ROBYNNLIN, which is also my website, robynlynn.com. And all of these links are available in the podcast notes. So again, thank you, all of you, for being with us today. And I hope you can join me next time here on Becoming Ageless, where we uncover new tips, tricks, actions, and science to increase your whole health span. Thank you, you guys, and have an ageless day.